My wife cheated on me with her boss, and I only found out because she secretly transferred $250, $0 from our joint account to his LLC. Now she's threatening to keep everything, including the house and my savings, in a bitter legal battle I never saw coming. Hello, everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, writing about how my wife, Jessica, turned out to be cheating on me with her boss. It all happened so fast, like a domino effect of lies and betrayal. One minute everything seemed normal, our life, our routine, the way she'd brush off my questions with that bitchy smirk of hers. The next, I was digging through our bank account and stumbling onto something that changed everything. A transfer of $250, $0 from our joint account straight into some LLC owned by her boss, Mark. That's when I knew something was seriously wrong. Jessica always loved to act like she was the perfect wife, bossy, controlling, quick to dismiss my concerns. She'd tell me I was paranoid, that I was overreacting, that I didn't understand how business works, but I saw the signs. She'd leave her phone open sometimes, and I'd see texts from Mark, flirty, suggestive, too close for comfort. She'd get defensive whenever I asked about her whereabouts, claiming she was working late or meeting clients. But the money transfer, that was the final nail in the coffin. I mean, who just transfers $250,000 to some LLC without telling me? It started with small things. Jessica changing her schedule, sneaking around on her phone. Then I noticed she was unusually tense during our dinners, distracted, always looking over her shoulder. I'd catch her lying about where she was, who she was with. I even saw her delete messages on her phone, quick and nervous. But that bank statement, finding that transfer, hit me like a truck. I couldn't believe she'd do something so brazen, so blatantly illegal and selfish. That's when the suspicion turned into certainty. She wasn't just hiding her phone anymore. She was hiding a whole other life. I didn't tell her I knew right away. Instead, I waited, watching her, gathering more evidence. I wanted to see how far she'd go, how deep this rabbit hole went. I kept quiet, pretending everything was fine, even though inside I was boiling with rage and heartbreak. I had invested everything into this marriage, years of shared dreams, savings, plans for the future. And now I was faced with the brutal truth. Jessica had been lying to my face for months, not just about where she was or who she was with, but about the entire foundation of our life together. The worst part, she's always been the bossy, bitchy type. She's the kind of woman who can lie with a straight face and make you doubt your own eyes. When I confronted her about the money, she spun some bullshit about it being a business investment, that I was overthinking, being paranoid. She said I was insecure and jealous. But I knew better. That money was gone, diverted into her boss's LLC, and I had the proof right there. The shock was overwhelming, but beneath that I felt something darker, an anger that I'd never experienced before. How could she do this? How could she lie so effortlessly? I remember the moment I decided to confront her face to face. I sat her down in the living room, my hands trembling. Her eyes flicked nervously, that same bitchy smirk on her face. I threw the bank statement on the table. Her face went pale for a second, then she snapped back with that irritatingly confident attitude. She told me it was all a mistake, that it was just business, and I was making a big deal out of nothing. She even called me paranoid, said I was jealous of her success, jealous of her boss. That made my blood boil. I never thought I'd be the guy who'd have to fight for his marriage, to fight for the truth. But now I was in it deep, and I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let her get away with this. Not without a fight. That's where I am now, trying to figure out what to do next, feeling betrayed and furious, but also trying to stay rational. I don't trust her anymore, and I don't know if I ever will. All I know is the game has changed, and I'm about to play it on my own terms. After laid the bank statement on the table and saw her face drain of color, Jessica's reaction was classic. She started spinning her usual lies, saying it was a business deal, that I didn't understand how her work worked, that I was just being paranoid. She even had the nerve to call me jealous, accusing me of mistrusting her as if I was the one with the problem. I could see right through her bullshit, though. That smirk she always wore when she was lying. It was gone, replaced by a flicker of panic. I sat there trying to process everything. My mind was racing. How long had this been going on? How deep was her betrayal? I felt a mix of anger, sadness, and disbelief. I'd always thought we had a solid life, that she was loyal. Turns out I was wrong. She had been sneaking around with her boss for months, probably using the money to fund some sort of affair or lifestyle she never wanted me to know about. I couldn't help but think about all the times she dismissed my concerns, brushed off my questions, and told me I was overreacting. She'd lied so effortlessly, I wondered how I'd ever trusted her in the first place. She kept insisting that everything was just business, that Mark was just helping her with some investments and that I was making a mountain out of a molehill. But I knew better. I knew that kind of money transfer didn't happen without a reason. That wasn't a typical business expense. That was her paying off her lover or maybe even laundering money. The thought made my stomach turn. I asked her directly, "Jessica, what the hell is going on? Who is Mark, really?" And she just shrugged, acting like she had no idea what I was talking about. That only made me more furious. I couldn't take it anymore. I told her I wanted answers and that I wasn't going to stand for her lies. She looked at me, that bitchy smirk back on her face, and said she'd explain everything if I just calmed down. But I wasn't calming down. I was furious. I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. How did I not see this coming? How did she manage to hide this from me for so long? It was like a punch to the gut, knowing she'd been cheating, stealing, lying right under my nose. The emotional toll hit me hard. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and stupid for trusting her all these years. Jessica always loved to act like she was the smarter one, the more successful one. She'd say she was the boss, the one in control. But now I saw through her facade. She'd been controlling everything, including my bank account, my life. That $250, $0 transfer, that was just the tip of the iceberg. I started to wonder what else she'd been hiding: hidden accounts, secret meetings, lies about her work. She kept trying to dismiss me, telling me I was overreacting, that I was jealous of her success. But I knew her better than that. I knew her manipulative ways. She was good at hiding her tracks, but I was starting to see through her game. I told her she needed to come clean, that I wasn't going to let her get away with this. She rolled her eyes at me and said, "You're just insecure. You don't trust me because you're jealous of my boss." That was the moment I realized I was dealing with someone who thought she could lie way out of anything, but I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. I made a decision then and there. I was done being the naive husband. I was going to find out everything, no matter what it took. I needed to know how deep this went, how much she'd betrayed me, and most importantly, what I was going to do about it. That's when I started to plan my next move. I knew I couldn't confront her again without solid proof. I started digging into her finances, her emails, her phone. I wanted to catch her in a lie, expose her for the fraud she was. I knew she'd try to spin it, try to manipulate me into believing she was innocent. But I'd seen enough to know she was guilty. The question was, what was she going to do next? And how much more damage was she willing to cause? I sat there, feeling numb but determined. I realized this wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about trust, respect, and my own dignity. Jessica had played me for a fool, and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I had to act fast or I'd lose everything: my savings, my house, my future. I just didn't know how deep her betrayal went or how much more I'd have to fight to get my life back. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. Jessica kept insisting that the money transfer was just a mistake, some kind of business error she hadn't realized she made. She tried to tell me Mark was just helping her with some investment, that she wasn't cheating on me. Yeah, right. She lied so many times in that conversation I lost count. Every word she said sounded like a lie. She was trying to spin it, make it sound like it was all innocent, but I wasn't buying it. I saw her desperation, how she kept avoiding eye contact, how her hands trembled a little when she talked. That's when I knew she was panicking. I told her I wasn't stupid. I said, "Jessica, I've seen the bank statement. I know what you did. You transferred $250, $0 to Mark's LLC. Don't lie to me anymore." Her face twisted into that familiar smirk, the one she always uses to dismiss or manipulate. "You're overreacting," she Said, "This is just business. Mark's helping me with some investments. You're just insecure, you don't trust me." That just made me want to scream. I mean, how could she be so brazen? She was lying through her teeth and I could see right past it. I started to realize that she was trying to gaslight me. She wanted me to doubt what I'd seen with my own eyes. She was good at it too. She kept insisting that she loved me, that I was the one making a big deal out of nothing. But I knew better. I knew she'd been lying for months. I could feel it in my gut, that deep, burning anger. I was furious that she'd been sneaking around, that she'd been cheating with her boss, Mark. And I was furious at myself for not catching it sooner. I also felt a strange sense of helplessness. I'd always thought I was the stable one, the one who kept everything together. But now I was faced with this mess. Her betrayal, her lies, the money stolen from us. And I didn't know what to do next. I kept asking her questions, demanding answers, but she just kept spinning her web of lies. It was like talking to a wall. I wanted her to admit it, to just say she'd been unfaithful, but she refused. Instead, she kept blaming me, calling me insecure, accusing me of being jealous of her success and her relationship with Mark. That's when I started to think about the bigger picture. This wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about respect, about trust. How could I ever trust her again after all this? I looked at her, that bitchy smirk still on her face, and I knew I had to do something drastic. I couldn't keep going like this, pretending everything was fine. I had to find out the truth, no matter what it took. So I decided to dig deeper. I started looking into her emails, her phone, her social media. I wanted to find concrete proof, something I could hold in my hands and show her. I needed to know how far this went, how many lies she'd told, how many times she'd been with Mark behind my back. I knew she'd try to lie her way out of it again, but I didn't trust her anymore. I'd catch her. I promised myself. I was going to find out what she was hiding, and then I'd decide what to do next. That night I stayed up late, going through her email account. I found some strange messages, flirty texts, suggestive pictures. Nothing explicit, but enough to make my stomach turn. She'd been talking to Mark about business trips, secret meetings, and plans for the future. It was obvious she was hiding something, and I was starting to see how deep her deception went. She'd been lying for so long, I wondered if I'd ever really known her at all. I felt betrayed beyond words. Jessica had always been the bossy, bitchy type, quick to dismiss my feelings, quick to lie when it suited her. Now I saw her for what she really was, a manipulative, selfish woman who'd been cheating on me and stealing from us at the same time. I was angry at myself for not noticing sooner, but mostly I was angry at her for destroying everything we'd built. I kept asking myself, how did I get here? How did I let her get away with this for so long? I knew I had to confront her again, but this time I'd be prepared. I wasn't going to let her spin her lies anymore. I had the proof now, and I was ready to force her hand. I also knew I had to start thinking about my own future, whether that meant fighting for the marriage or walking away. I was tired of being played for a fool. The betrayal cut so deep, I wasn't sure I'd ever be able to forgive her. But I also knew I couldn't keep living in this nightmare. Something had to change. I just didn't know what yet. The next day, I woke up with a heavy weight on my chest. The truth was out there now, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. Jessica's lies were starting to unravel completely. I'd gathered enough evidence to make her squirm, and I was ready to confront her again, this time with everything on the table. I knew I had to be careful. She was manipulative, and I couldn't let her spin her way out of this. I decided to set a trap. I left my phone open on the table with my email account logged in, just in case she tried to hide or delete anything. I also secretly installed a monitoring app on her phone, nothing invasive, just enough to catch her in the act if she tried to get rid of evidence or contact Mark again. I wasn't planning to play dirty, but I was desperate. I needed to know exactly how far she'd gone and what she was planning now. That afternoon, she came home early from work, looking tense and annoyed. Her bitchy attitude was on full display, but I stayed calm. I called her out, told her I knew about the money transfer, about her secret emails with Mark, about everything I'd uncovered. She started to deny everything again, but I cut her off. I told her I had proof, screenshots, bank statements, her own emails, and I was tired of her lies. Her face twisted into that familiar sneer, but I could see the flicker of panic behind her eyes. She tried to gaslight me, saying I was paranoid, that she loved me, that Mark was just a business associate. I didn't buy it. I told her I wasn't stupid anymore, that I knew she'd been cheating on me, stealing from us, and manipulating me for months. Her voice rose, and her tone turned bitchy. "You're just jealous because I don't want to be stuck in this boring marriage anymore," she snapped. "Mark is the only one who understands me, and if you think you're going to take everything from me, you're dead wrong." At that moment, I knew I'd hit her where it hurt. I calmly told her she was done lying, that I'd already contacted a lawyer, and that I was preparing to take everything. Our house, our savings, everything she thought she could steal from me. Her face turned red with rage, and she yelled, "You're just a jealous, insecure loser. You don't deserve me, and I'll make sure you get nothing." That was the moment I realized she was dangerous. She was threatening me, trying to intimidate me into backing off. But I wasn't backing down. I'd already made up my mind. I was done being a victim. I told her she could threaten all she wanted, but I wasn't going to let her ruin my life. I was going to fight for what was rightfully mine and for the truth. And then she did something I didn't expect. She reached into her purse and pulled out her phone, trying to delete the emails and messages in front of me. I moved fast, grabbing her wrist and stopping her. I saw the panic in her eyes. That's when I knew I had her cornered. I told her, "If you think you can lie your way out of this, you're dead wrong. I've got everything I need now, and I'm not going to let you keep stealing from me, emotionally, financially, or otherwise." That night, I stayed up late, reviewing all the evidence I'd collected. I felt a strange mix of relief and dread. Relief that I finally had the proof I needed, but dread about what would happen next. Jessica was clearly losing control, and I knew she'd do everything she could to save herself. I also knew I had to prepare for the legal fight ahead. She was threatening to take everything, our house, our savings, even the clothes on our backs, and I had to be ready. Part of me felt broken, honestly. I'd loved her once, believed in us. But now I saw her for what she really was, a manipulative, selfish woman who'd betrayed me in the worst way imaginable. I kept asking myself how I'd let it get this far, how I'd been so blind. But I also knew I couldn't keep dwelling on the past. I had to focus on what was ahead, the fight for my future, for the truth, and for myself. I realized that I was at a crossroads. I could try to salvage what was left, or I could cut my losses and walk away. The betrayal had shattered any illusion I had about her, and I knew I'd never see her the same way again. But one thing was clear: I was done being the victim in this story. Now I had to decide whether to fight for what I deserved or let her take everything in her bitter, vindictive rage. The next steps would define my future, and I was ready to take control of it. The days that followed were a blur of legal consultations, emotional exhaustion, and planning. Jessica, of course, didn't go quietly. She doubled down on her threats, claiming she'd fight me in court for custody of the house and my savings, insisting she'd spin some story about me being an unstable, jealous husband. She even had the audacity to accuse me of trying to ruin her because I found out the truth. It was all so predictable, yet still infuriating. Her bitchy attitude hadn't changed. If anything, it was sharper, more manipulative. I hired a lawyer immediately. The moment I did, everything changed. Suddenly, I had someone who knew how to handle her tactics, someone who could help me protect what was mine. The lawyer told me that her threats were empty if I had the evidence I'd uncovered, that her accusations about me being unstable or jealous wouldn't hold water in court, especially with the proof I possessed. It was a small comfort, but it helped me regain some confidence. I realized I wasn't just some naive husband anymore. I was someone who could fight back. Jessica's reaction to the legal process was even more revealing. She started playing the victim, crying, insisting she was the one being wronged. She claimed I was trying to ruin her reputation, that I was jealous and insecure, and that I'd fabricated the whole story to punish her. She even tried to turn the narrative around, saying that she was the one who had helped build our life, that I was just some ungrateful loser who couldn't handle her success. It was classic gaslighting, but I saw through it. I knew her game now, and I was ready to counter it. The tension in the house was unbearable. Jessica's bitchy attitude turned into outright hostility. She would throw tantrums, yell at me in front of the kids, yes, we have kids, which makes this whole mess even more complicated, and try to manipulate everyone around her. Her threats about taking everything, including the house and my savings, grew more aggressive. She even started talking about lawyer up and fighting dirty, which I knew was just her way of trying to scare me. But I wasn't backing down. Meanwhile, I kept digging into her finances, trying to find any other hidden accounts or assets she might have. I learned she'd been funneling money into side accounts, probably to hide it from me. I also found some suspicious transfers, small amounts here and there, probably to cover her tracks. It was clear she'd been planning her escape for a while. Her whole attitude now was all about control, trying to intimidate me into giving up, trying to keep her secrets hidden. But I was done being played. I was determined to fight for what was rightfully mine. One night I confronted her directly. I told her I had enough evidence to prove her lies, that I was prepared to go to court and fight her for full custody of the house and the savings. I also made it clear that I'd be revealing everything: her affair, her thefts, her manipulations. Her face twisted into a scowl, and she yelled back that she'd destroy me if I went through with it. That's when I realized her fury was just desperation. She knew she was losing control and she was trying to threaten her way out of it, but I stayed firm. I told her she could threaten all she wanted, but I wasn't going to let her take everything from me. I'd worked too hard, saved too much to let her ruin me. I told her that if she kept pushing, I'd expose her in court and make sure she got nothing. She scoffed at me, claiming she'd fight dirty, but I was ready. I'd already gathered enough evidence to prove her infidelity and financial misconduct. I knew the legal battle ahead would be tough, but I was prepared to see it through. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything: the betrayal, the lies, her threats. I felt exhausted but also oddly relieved. I'd finally taken control of the situation. I wasn't the naive husband anymore. I was a man fighting for his future. Jessica's manipulations might have worked on me before, but not anymore. I knew exactly what she was capable of: lies, threats, manipulations, and I was ready to counter every one of them. I also realized that I needed to prepare myself emotionally for what was coming. This wasn't just a legal fight. It was a battle for my dignity and peace of mind. I'd been betrayed in the worst way, but I refused to let her win. No matter how bitter, how vindictive she became, I was going to stand my ground. I'd fight for my rights, for my home, and for my sanity. And I'd do it without letting her drag me down into her chaos. This was far from over, but I knew I was finally in control of my story. The court dates came and went faster than I expected, but each one was a brutal reminder of how far Jessica was willing to go to keep her secrets. She showed her true colors: bitter, manipulative, and desperate to hold onto her lies. She tried every tactic in the book: crying crocodile tears, throwing accusations, even trying to spin her affair as a business partnership gone wrong. But I had the evidence, and I made damn sure it was all presented. My lawyer was a beast, countering her every move, exposing her financial misconduct, and revealing the affair that she desperately tried to hide. In the end, the judge saw through her act. The financial evidence was irrefutable: $250, zero transferred without my knowledge, secret emails with Mark, and her attempts to hide assets. The affair was also undeniable, with her own emails and texts laid out clearly. The court awarded me primary custody of the kids, and I managed to keep our house, along with most of our savings. Jessica's threats to destroy me and take everything she could were met with a stern warning from the judge. She couldn't use her manipulations to try and cheat her way out of accountability. Walking out of that courtroom, I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. I had fought tooth and nail for what was rightfully mine, and I'd won, but the cost was high. Jessica's betrayal had shattered the life I thought I knew, and the scars ran deep. I couldn't help but feel a lingering sadness for what I'd lost: years of trust, the marriage I'd believed in, the future I'd envisioned with her. Still, I was grateful that I stood my ground, that I hadn't let her manipulate me into giving up everything. In the weeks that followed, I focused on rebuilding my life. I moved into a new place, started therapy to deal with the emotional fallout, and slowly regained my confidence. The pain of betrayal still lingered, but I refused to let it define me. I learned a lot from this ordeal about trust, about the importance of paying attention to the signs, and about how dangerous manipulation can be when left unchecked. I also learned that sometimes the only way to survive is to fight back and fight hard. Jessica, for her part, tried to spin her narrative. She told friends she was the victim, that I was jealous and insecure, that she was forced into a corner. But nobody believed her. The truth was out, and her reputation took a hit. She moved away, probably to start fresh somewhere new, leaving behind the wreckage she'd created. As for me, I realized I'd been given a second chance, one that I'd fought for with everything I had. Looking back, I wish I'd seen the signs earlier, but I also knew that some lessons come the hard way. The biggest one: never ignore your gut. If something feels off, dig deeper. Trust is fragile, and betrayal can come from the people you least expect. But even in the darkest moments, there's a sliver of hope. Hope that justice can be served, that you can reclaim your life, and that you can come out stronger on the other side. Now I'm focusing on myself and my children. We're rebuilding one day at a time. I've learned that the most important thing is to stay true to your values, to stand firm in your integrity, and to never let anyone manipulate or deceive you without consequences. Jessica's betrayal changed me, but it also taught me resilience. I hope others can learn from my story, pay attention, trust yourself, and never settle for anything less than honesty and respect. Because in the end, that's what truly matters.